You are listening to Topic Paranormal with your host, Georgina Holzmeyer, and the Paranormal Brain Trust, Robert M. Brown, Nick Landy, and Rachel Sosa. Topic Paranormal covers Paranormal Talk, Paranormal Tales, Paranormal Training, and so much more. Experience the topics of conversation on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Topic Paranormal. Have a topic suggestion or a question? Send an email to topicparanormal@gmail.com or post it to the Topic Paranormal Facebook page. Topic Paranormal is part of the Astronet Radio family. Visit astronetradio.com for more awesome podcasts. And now, your host, Georgina Holzmeyer.
Hey, hello, and welcome to this week's Topic Paranormal. Y'all are really in for a treat. One of the questions that we get a lot is along the lines of witchcraft, Wicca, pagan, witches. What is that? What does it really look like? You know, I personally was brought up with witchcraft being the work of the devil and that kind of stuff. So we have actually on the line with us Rachel Sosa. Say hello, Rachel.
Hello.
And Rachel is a practicing witch, but we're going to have her give us a little idea about what a day in the life of Rachel Sosa the witch looks like. I think y'all may be a little surprised that it's pretty normal, actually. And then we'll get into a little bit more detail. So, Rachel, give us a little idea about what your take is on what you are practicing, for lack of a better phrasing.
Well, I guess it would be a form of, paganism. I do consider myself a practicing witch. I do cast spells. I do use a lot of candles and everything in my work. I also incorporate crystals. I use kind of incantations and things like that I have in my spell book. I just kind of come up with things, whatever I intuitively feel or what I think is necessary for, doing spell work or any type of intention that I want to put out there. So, that's kind of the way I work, whatever I'm intuitively guided to do.
Okay. And it's really cool. I love the way that you bring that up, that it's very much a craft that you have individualized through that intuition and what works for you. You know me, I'm a research nut. So of course I had to find the official definition of all of these words. And what I did
Of course you did.
And of course, what I did find, Wicca is now practiced as a religion of initiatory, something like that, secret society nature with positive ethical principles, which are organized into autonomous covens and generally led by a high priesthood. And that definition basically comes from Gardner and Murray. And they basically came up with that definition via their research. Some of it's been debunked at this point, but this was back early in the 1920s. Okay. And then there is like a subset of Wicca that's referred to as eclectic Wiccan movement. Okay. And that's basically individuals and groups who share key Wiccan beliefs, but they don't have that initiation, connection, or affiliation with traditional Wicca. And
yes.
So there's a little difference there. In fact, if you're familiar with, a couple of phrases here, the Key of Solomon, Aleister Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis, and some of the pre-Christian religions all fall into that eclectic one. Okay, so that's Wicca, all right? The official Wicca out there. Now, witchcraft is basically, according to Wikipedia and the Webster Dictionary, a practice of magical skills and abilities. Okay? Then you've got paganism. And that term, this one I found a little interesting, coming from the Christian background that I do. The paganism term, first used generally in the 4th century by early Christians for people in the Roman Empire who practice polytheism, which is, the worship of more than one god. And
Right.
then an alternate term in these Christian texts for that same group of pagans were Hellene, Gentile, and heathen. Okay, so
Yeah, heathen.
yes, definitely.
Yep.
And so technically, back then, I would have been a pagan, because I was not a Jew, basically. So that was kind of an interesting find in that little bit of research this morning. So there you go. There's all of that. And I found it, what you have
You're a busy little bee.
Hey, I try. I wanna know a little bit about
But
what
I
I'm
love
talking
that.
about.
I love that. Yeah, I love that though. That you're educated. I love that. I love that.
Well, and what I've found, especially from knowing you as long as I have, I get to see you in a little different light than most of our listeners tonight. I know you on a very personal level, a day-to-day level, paranormal, etc. And I have a feeling, honestly, that a lot of people that are just walking around out there, when they hear that word Wicca or pagan or witch, they are not necessarily seeing the same type of people that I'm interacting with that consider themselves practicing witches. Would you agree with that?
I would. There's a lot of fear out there. Not as much as there used to be. It's actually kind of, I guess, considered coming more into the mainstream where everyone's kind of coming out of the broom closet, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, um, but there are there are a lot more people that are a little bit more open-minded and accepting now, to the point where they're actually asking more questions just to be more educated. Um, I have people that they see my pentacle, that I wear, and they're just like, well, what does that symbol mean, or what is that, or, and it actually kind of opens up the conversation, to, or opens up the dialogue really to have this, conversation about, paganism, and witchcraft, and, bringing all of these things that are, usually considered taboo. In some ways it kind of still is, but it's a little bit more open now for people to kind of not really be accepting, because there are still people out there that just won't. They're just like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. It's the devil and it's evil, and but for those that are actually open-minded, who are willing to have the conversation, it's actually been, quite pleasant, whenever I've had to engage in people who ask. So I do agree with that. But I think now, in this time, in this reality, it's actually a little bit more, accepted to be, which is I think is a great move forward.
Yes, I would agree. You cut out a little bit there, but definitely more accepted than it has been in the past, for sure. In fact,
Yes, very.
one of the topics that came up as I was doing my research was the fact that the predominant concept of witchcraft here in the Western world actually derives from the Old Testament laws, which were basically against witchcraft. And of course, that entered the mainstream when belief in witchcraft gained church approval in the early modern period, which is another interesting topic that we may get into at some point in the future. There are actually church doctrines that approve of witchcraft to a degree. Anyway, that's a new one for me, by the
Are
way.
things that they would consider witchcraft, like, like people who were seers,
Yes.
or people who practiced with, herbal, yeah, exactly, like holistic. But yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. So that was kind of interesting to go through all of that, because so much of that is what actually caused the Salem witch trials, and so much of, that's where the word witch hunt comes from nowadays. a lot of that superstitious stuff. And so it is nice to hear from you that you're experiencing that acceptance and curiosity. I guess would be a good word for that as well, wouldn't it?
Oh yes, I actually I love that. I love that they're actually curious about that, and they want to ask questions. I welcome it just because it gives me the opportunity to let people in on the fact that no, I'm not walking around, with an old haggard nose and a witch hat and flying on a broom and casting evil spells to eat children. I'm not. That is just, I mean, ridiculous. But hey, whatever. It's
Yeah.
still, it still blows my mind to see people or hear people actually think that, like these some people that I actually engage who are just like, I don't know, they feel like they want to drop to their knees and save my soul, and I'm just like, okay, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
I do. It's
I'm like,
a
oh
little
my
over the
gosh.
top.
I'm like, let me help you up. Are you okay? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
So
it's almost like you want to say, darling, aren't you older than that fairy
I'm like,
tale level?
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, we gotta have a chat here if you're willing. So
Definitely. I,
yeah.
oh, I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and move into our commercial break at the moment. And when we come back, we're going to visit with you a little bit about what actually resonated with you about this particular path of belief and a spiritual life, for lack of a better word, there. A little bit about what drew you to this craft. So we're going to go ahead and break for a commercial and then come back with that particular topic. All right.
Cool.
Y'all hang with us. We'll be back in just a moment. Enjoy these fabulous commercials from our sponsors. Hey guys, thanks for hanging with us through those commercials. I'm hoping that you actually heard one from Moral Compass Tarot. I will have you know you're really in for a treat if you haven't checked in with us in that first section there. Rachel Sosa is with us. She is a practicing witch. She is also the owner of Moral Compass Tarot. So let's pop right in with Rachel. I do want to find out a little bit more about what resonated with you about witchcraft. What is it about that particular spiritual path that you find draws you to it? Do you mind sharing some of that with us?
No, not at all. Um, so when I was, a kid, like through teenage years and everything, I was always interested in the occult, and witches, and I found out more, like through just reading and talking that it wasn't the, the cliche that, all witches are devil worshippers and Satanists and all this kind of thing.
No green
It was actually
noses.
more, yeah, exactly. The witch hats, yes, that's very prominent, and there's a reason for that. But anyway, but so it was really cool because this was more like nature based. Like they based everything off of just intention and using energies of the earth, and then also using herbs to make their different types of tonics and tinctures and what they needed to use for their spell work, and it just absolutely fascinated me. And also, you look around and you see a witch, it's not what you think. I'm
Hmm.
here and my pajama pants and a bandana on my head. I mean, I it is we're all normal looking. you know
Yes.
um so, I mean, it's just, I was very fascinated with that. And so I actually kind of befriended someone who I'm still friends with to this day. And she was a practicing witch too. And this actually kind of goes along with, where my paranormal journey began as well. But she actually took me to a place where they sold ritualistic items, for whomever wanted to practice. And what was really cool about it is it actually made it more real because it was tangible and I could actually see these things. And you had so many things from, charcoal to candles to different herbs to different, candle colors and books and different kinds of smudging sticks, and it was just fascinating. Different types of oils and different types of waters, that you could use in your spiritual practices and your spell casting. And I didn't really know what all that meant until later, but it was the coolest thing. And actually starting to read some of these books about, putting your intentions in things and using intuition and developing your abilities as far as like, if you knew that you had them, you could build on them. If not, then you could definitely tap into those sources. So that's kind of what started me on this thing, was just, a random, stop into a shop with all of these things. And I became completely fascinated by it. And that's
Kinda
when I
like,
started reading more.
so it was kind of like an unexpected field trip type thing, you know? It sounds
Yeah,
like.
I did not realize we were going to be going. And she was like, "Hey, I want to take you somewhere. I want to show you something." I'm like, "Okay,
Okay.
we're bored. Let's go."
Yeah, we're game for
So,
anything at
yeah.
that age.
Yeah, I'm like, "Why not?" So, yeah, it was the coolest thing. And so, yeah, then I started reading, and then also the second part of that was when I took, honestly, just a random Wicca 101 class, from a practicing Wiccan. She wasn't a priestess, but I think she was on her way. But she actually held a degree in botany. And so she knew all these things about different herbs and different flowers and how to grow them and use them in your magical workings. And it was when I first actually knew how powerful a chant was,
Oh.
whenever we, cast a circle and did our first ritual. And our first, just casting a circle and everybody coming forward. And it was, I was lost. I was just like, oh, this is totally where I need to be. This is where I fit.
So
So, and then it
definitely,
just went from there.
so very much a draw, a resonance there, because I know based on some of our personal conversations that we've had, you were actually brought up with a Christian type background growing up. So
Yes.
for some people out there, some of the comments I've heard along the lines about witchcraft and Wicca is that these are lost souls. They didn't have the right guidance, etc. And at the same time, that just doesn't sound right to me. And I just wanted to point that out. No, because yeah, depending on what you think is the right upbringing, it's not that witches, Wicca, pagans, it's not that they don't know that whole Christian thought process that has dominated the Western world. It's basically coming to what works for you, the individual. Is that
Mm-hmm.
a fair
I mean,
comment?
yeah, in a nutshell, yes. I mean, there are certain things like Wicca, for example. There are certain things that it's considered a religion. So, okay, let me break this down.
Okay.
Pagan is related to what Christian would be, and that's like, it's like an all-encompassing umbrella. Okay,
Right.
then you break that down, and you have, like, just like you have different types of Christians, is what kind of you would have a different type of pagan. Sometimes it's going to be Wiccan, sometimes it's going to be an eclectic Wicca, sometimes it's going to be even Christian Wicca. So it's the pagan is kind of like an all encompassing of what it is. Now you could break those down even further if you wanted to, but it's more, of the umbrella of what all of this can be put under, as far as like the intuition and the intention and the magical workings, and using all of that is actually kind of like a universal thing in all of this, because it's all about intention for this, and how you use it and how you work it.
Okay, Rachel, you're talking a little bit about paganism and explaining how that umbrella covers several different things, the Wicca, the eclectic Wiccan that we talked about. And I'm curious, can you give me a little more on that? And then talk to me a little bit about, is it hard to kind of like come up with that perfect all encompassing label?
I can't really say that. I mean, unless they want, unless any like, witch or practicing person in spirituality wants to label themselves, that's kind of like, it's kind of like the denomination of a Christian, because that's kind of what the pagan is, so not that they're Christian, that's not what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is like Christian is like the all-encompassing umbrella of like, of the different denominations, and it's kind
Right.
of like pagan has kind of the different levels of that. You've got the Wiccan, and then you've got the neo-pagan, you've got the eclectic, and so it kind of goes under that umbrella, so to speak. But as far as like trying to find an all-encompassing, for me personally, I pull from different areas of that, whatever I'm intuitively guided to do, I guess you could say. Some of the practices that I use would possibly be considered Wiccan, whereas there's other practices that I probably pull in that would be considered, on my other half would be my Native American heritage. So for me, or as they would say, a different medicine. So I can't, I'm not really sure if anybody can find that all-encompassing perfect, title, because it's really just what they feel that they're pulled to do and what they're intuitively guided to do, what they spiritually feel is right for them. Does that make sense?
It sure does. In fact, I'll be honest with you, having been raised a Southern Baptist in a small rural community, I've drawn away from a lot of those basic childhood teachings because they just didn't fit what I felt.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, even trying to find the proper, and proper is probably not the right word, but that all encompassing, easy label for other people about me and my belief system, it just doesn't exist. You kind of have to just get to know me as a person to recognize and deal with that kind of non-standard belief pattern. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little easier for me, honestly, because I can draw on common language that the majority of the Western world understands. The average man on the street understands that philosophy of God sending his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross to save you from your sins. That's fairly common language in my world. It's less common to be able to talk to the average individual about particular herbs or intentions, even, and
Yeah, it
mantras
can
and
be.
those chants. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
different. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's really not that different. When
It
you,
really isn't.
yeah,
If you break it down, Christians, they pray, they put their intention out there. I mean, as far as like us being, practitioners, or even in a coven, you set the same, intention that you want, as far as like, if you want peace, if you want, to bring more love into the world. It really is kind of along the same line. I'm not saying that they're the same as far as, particular belief, but the intention is the same, as far as like if you want to bring more positivity, or love, or peace, or whatever you choose to do.
it's kind of like those goals are just as universal with
Hmm.
a little different verbiage kind of thing. We still
Yeah,
get there,
it's so true. Yeah.
just a little differently. All right, I tell you what, let's move into our next break. And then when we come back, we've got some questions that have come through our Facebook page, Topic Paranormal, through some of our listeners and just some general people that,
Oh, goody.
oh, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting, quite fun. Like I've promised all
No,
along,
I love it. I'm ready.
this is going to be one of our funnest episodes yet. So let's do that. Let's hear from those sponsors and our commercials, and we'll be right back with Rachel Sosa. Hey, welcome back. Thank y'all for sticking around. Rachel is still with us, and we're going to move now into these questions that we have received through our Facebook page, Topic Paranormal. A couple of these have come through our Gmail address, which is also topicparanormal@gmail.com. There's a variety of ways to reach us, guys, so don't hesitate. Let us know what you're thinking. You have questions, we'd love to work with you on that. And let's see how many of these questions we can get through, Rachel. Are you ready for the first one?
And go.
All right. Who is Gaia?
Gaia, honestly, Mother Earth.
Mother Earth. Nice.
She is the body that we live on. We drink her blood every single day. We should give thanks for that and give praise to her every day and save the planet, people.
There you go. Okay, number 2. Who is the goddess? Or actually, is there a goddess or is there more than one?
I think there's many goddesses. And so whether you choose to pay homage and not, I shouldn't say worship, but appreciate and actually, love and put your intention and positivity into, you should do that. Goddess can also be kind of all encompassing, I guess you could say. For me personally, I associate Gaia with the goddess because she is everything. So that's my answer to that one.
All right. And then question number 3 is kind of a same shade as who's the goddess. It's basically, can a witch follow other goddesses or gods?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever they identify with and whomever they choose to pull to, yes.
Okay. Number whatever. Okay, I'm going to leave the numbers alone.
We're trailing off now.
We're trailing off. Way too many. How do you worship your goddess? So,
I usually do it. You could use worship. That's fine. That's okay. I have an altar. And I usually do it with I'll do it with candles. I'll do it with herbs. I usually put my crystals up there. If it's actually part of the season, like for example, the winter solstice is coming, I'll usually put silver and blues and just really, I'll even put some snowflakes up there because they're so pretty. And, I'll put some, just really cool for me, whatever I feel like I want to put up there. If I want to put some pine cones up there and just make it really festive and pretty and, light the candles up and just look at it and go, oh, I love you, just kind of like that. That's what I do.
Okay. So once again, we're back to that intuitive, what makes you feel connected to the goddess kind of situation.
Yes.
No strict
Yeah, whatever
rituals.
you are pulled to do.
Okay.
For me, there isn't any. I mean, yeah, there are some witches out there who do have, a ritual that they usually perform, like say on a full moon or like for Samhain. For me, for example, I go all out, because it's the witch's New Year. So for me, I would do lots of, mums and festive colors and fall colors and, I'll put fruits and I'll just get really creative with it, and I'll put, sugar skulls because, Day of the Dead is also part of my culture. So I kind of put it all together. But for me, it's just what I am guided to do, really.
Awesome.
It's intuitive based. It's what I feel guided to do. To me, it's like she's speaking to me I'd really love some, beautiful silver candles. I'm like, you got it. So I go and I do that. So.
Okay. All right. Our next one is, are there such things as Christian witches? Can you be Christian and be a witch at the same time?
For me, why not?
There you go.
Why not? I mean, as long as your intentions are good and pure and you actually want to, put good into this world, why not? If it's really often hard, and I actually struggled with this too, believe it or not. I was raised Baptist, so it was really hard for me to let that Christian aspect go, and mix it with, my pagan and witchy practices. So, but sometimes it's easier for other people if they're just like, yeah, I can mesh these two together, and why not? It's really, like I said, it's what you're moved to do.
Well, and I would agree with that. And hey, How fabulous is
I think you're on that
harmony?
path, believe it or not.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I love
Definitely.
it.
It's definitely. I'm finding a great mix there. Honestly, I really am. It's been quite an adventure. I'll be honest. Uh, it's always fun to talk. Well, I say always. That might not be the right word. A lot of times it's fun to talk to other people about their spiritual past and what they're doing, how they came to their decisions and things like that. But that's probably a whole nother episode of,
Oh, it is, and that would be
oh my
fascinating.
gosh. Yeah, that one's going to be fun. I can't wait to put that guest list together. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And one of the reasons that question came up, I'm actually the one that asked this question, by the way. And
I
part of,
totally knew that.
and part of that is because we've had this discussion a little bit before, but I also have other friends that are witches, and they grew up in that spiritual path, that whole thought process. And it was really interesting because several of the witches in that particular group were a little bothered, honestly, by the whole Christian witch thought process. And they're referring to it as, and I'm probably not going to pronounce this right, but Abrahamic, after Abraham type
Okay.
branch, if you will. And so that was just an interesting
Yeah.
thought to see a couple of different reactions to that thought process there. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so Rachel, how do you become a witch?
Well, you can go to a career fair. No, I'm just kidding. So me, you, I want to be a witch, so I start reading. I read and I research and I see what what feels right to me as far as like how I want to practice. And you really do think about it. Like, what are you into? Do you want to work, exclusively with, candles? Do you want to do, spell work? Would you rather prefer to work with herbs? Yes, they can all kind of mesh together, but some people, honestly, they can be pulled towards other things that they are not. Are you interested in, possibly opening up your gifts to read cards or to read auras and people? The main thing is that if you want to practice, then start researching on how you want to do it. How get some books and start reading up on the history on how to cast a circle, knowing about the four directions. What is a pentagram versus a pentacle? Yes, and the answer to that one, because I know it's probably going to come up, it's a circle. There's a circle around the pentagram, and then there's one that isn't. So they're both used in craft. But then you just start kind of like, what kind of spell do you want to cast? I do suggest you start off with something simple. Don't get all, I'm gonna call the god of, don't do that. If you're not experienced, start off simple. Just put something that's with good intention and put it out there and see what happens, and just keep reading and honing your craft, because that's basically how you become a more experienced witch.
Awesome. So you didn't necessarily go to a school or have any official, like, formal training. Now, have you seen on, like, Facebook, for instance, and the internet, there are actually schools out there now for witches and Wicca and different, some of the things that you've spoken about, spell casting, using herbs to do particular magic and things like that. What do you
Right.
think about those? Do you have any experience or opinion on that?
You know what? I mean, if people want to try that and they want to go to a witch school that's, and there's actually, maybe high priestess and priestesses that actually give those classes and experience witches. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I would research it though, just to make sure that the curriculum is actually, on point, and that's going to be used in a positive way, and just to make sure that the subject matter is going to be concise with actually what you want to practice. There are places out there that offer like, basic, Wicca or Witchcraft 101. There's also a place that I go to called the Sisters Enchanted, which is a fabulous Facebook page. And they give like little free courses, once in a while about like, tarot and oracle card reading and, herbs and, using positive energy to kind of embrace your path, so to speak. So, yeah, there are things out there that you can kind of try. And then they also can give you opportunities to get into a more elongated course if you wanted to do that, if you prefer. So, yeah, there are places out there. Do you have to? No. But it's always a good resource if they offer a course here and there that's free. I do it all the time just because I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. I'd like to learn about this.
Yeah, and you never know what you're going to learn sometimes, even for free,
Exactly.
right?
And it's really good to network too.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
And I will bring up at this point as well, Hexfest. Check it out. It's not for everybody. I was able to go. It was quite an eye-opening experience for me. At the time, I really didn't have much of a clue about what was going on. It was just a really cool, fun event. But I think for certain people, and especially practicing witches like you, Rachel, would really find a lot of benefit in some of those classes, etc., that they offered. So that's another option if y'all are any of our listeners are interested in that. By the way, there you go.
oh, I cannot wait to go to that one day.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait to go again now that I've got a little better understanding of everything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so here's a question for you. Is there like an initiation or baptism type ritual that goes along with becoming a witch?
Um, yeah, there can be. Usually if you are a solitary practitioner, you can actually kind of do the initiation yourself. And usually there's time to prepare for that and do like a dedication, so to speak. If you're in a coven or you have been invited to join a coven, because they're not just going to be like, hey, come on in. They usually, they have some ways to kind of, are we comfortable with you? Are your intentions, good with ours? Are you, do we see potential? It's not it's not a judgy factor. It's just more of the comfort of the person, the energy of that person. If that is the case, then they'll probably put you through type of a initiation rite. It's I do not know personally a lot of covens, but I do know just from reading and research throughout the years that that is possible. Most of the time, though, a lot of the witches that I do know or speak with are more solitary, and then they'll actually do like kind of an initiation or a dedication rite, for themselves to dedicate themselves to the goddess or the god, or both, or even to a particular goddess or god,
Okay.
or
All
just
right.
to the universe in general.
Okay. So, Rachel,
Oh,
our
there you
next
go. I
question.
like that.
What is
Yeah.
lavender water?
Ooh, lavender water. All right, so from a holistic point of view, it's actually a really good like antiseptic, antibacterial spray. So that's always really good. In a ritual way, I personally like to use it to like clear my space and add some just, added extra positive juju, for, some added protection. Like I said, added, purification. Kind of just ward off the little negative little bits and pieces that are still kind of lingering around. That's what I use it for.
Awesome. Okay. So, oh, this is an interesting one. How do you know if you've had enough training to cast a spell?
Um, well, it kind of depends on the spell. If you are just starting out, like I said, start with something simple. But as you progress and as you kind of like advance yourself as far as like studying and getting to, getting to know how you like to word your spells, getting to know how many, the kind of herbs that are used to incorporate into your spell, the type of incantations that you want to do. It's kind of like, it's really kind of up to you. It's kind of like if you feel that you're ready to take on something that's a little bit more advanced. Um, honestly, the only way you're going to find out is to kind of do that. But I always put a word of warning, just to make sure that you're ready, because if you're not and that spell backfires, the repercussions can be harsh.
Ooh, that sounds like
So
a
you
whole
always
nother
have to just,
episode.
yeah, it is a whole other episode. I mean, there's different types of magics out there, and people who don't know what they're doing and they don't know what they're messing with can either have some serious repercussions or actually conjure things. And I have seen it. I've seen it happen. Um, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying anybody died, but the
Right.
repercussions were bad,
Yeah.
So know the ingredients that you're working with. Know the potency of the ingredients you're working with. Know the words that you're working with. The potency of those, because words are very, very powerful. And once you put them out there, can't really take them back.
No, you cannot. You sure can't. Okay. So, are there specific like recipes for spells?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can find, like, there's different things that you can actually find online. Like, I think there is a let's see, I think it is a website. It's called
Oh,
magicalrecipes.com,
okay.
and you can actually find really cool recipes, like how to make Florida water, how to make lavender water. You can make like little like herbal bits for, like, you burning on your charcoal. It's it's a really cool resource to try to find those kinds of things. And just with the internet being so available to us today, it's really cool to find um different kinds of like spells that you can do, but just make sure that they're legitimate. you know um I personally prefer to talk to other witches and ask them, like, hey, if I needed to try to get rid of someone, or just kind of not banish someone, but just kind of get rid of someone that I really don't want to have around me, or a toxic person, what would you do? Like, what kind of binding would you do? Things like that. I personally like to talk to other witches, because either they've tried it, they've used it, or they've experienced with other people who've, had that same experience, and it's just kind of a networking thing. So, and most of the time they're not ashamed to, not ashamed, I shouldn't say that. Sorry, witches. Um, they're not afraid to share that knowledge.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
That's not a bad idea. You may be hearing from me in the future, Rachel. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay. So, when you cast a spell, for instance, are you invoking a spirit or a goddess or god to help you with that spell? What actually makes that spell work?
Um, there's several things. You have to have a space to do it. That's always helpful. And I'm not saying you have to, go outside and like cast this, here comes my circle. You don't have to do anything like that big. You can
Right.
actually do something very personal in your room, or if you have an altar, you can do your spell work there. Um, all of it really has to do with intention and what you want to do. And, the ingredients and everything, come together with that. Sometimes you actually have, kind of a recipe or an actual spell that includes everything that you need to do with it. Or a lot of people like to be intuitively guided on what they should use, to perform their spell. Excuse me. Usually it just takes, space, time, intention. Can you call on a goddess or a particular uh, divine energy? Sure. Sure, you can, to kind of help you. I personally, whenever I'm casting a circle, I call the goddess forward just for protection, and also to help me with my work, with the work of the spell. I also like to call in Archangel Michael to protect. Um, so it really kind of, like I said, what you're intuitively guided to do. But yeah, there's a lot of spells that you can call forth a particular god or goddess or energy to come forward and help you.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm picking up on, specifically in our conversation tonight, is that whole intuition and intent. It's basically your personal energy that is making that spell work for the most part, it sounds like. Okay, our final question. Are all witches psychic? What do you say, Rachel?
Um, I think that all witches are intuitive, but I do think that some of them have been blessed with other gifts.
Stronger
I
gifts?
think that I think stronger gifts, yeah. I think as far as like abilities go, some may be more empathic. Some may be more, they have abilities to do psychometry. Some might be drawn towards cartomancy, like tarot, oracle cards. Some may
Right.
be really, really good at like mixing potions and tinctures and tonics and, working with herbs. We all can get that experience as we grow as witches, but I'll be the first to tell you I was I was not good with the herbs, man. It took me a long time to figure out what goes with what. I That was not my forte. It still isn't to this day. I learn a lot. Um my actual gifts are more towards using the cards as a conduit for me to channel. Well, not really. Well, I guess channel, like call forward
Right.
um, energies. So, psychometry is actually something that I've started touching on. Other witches that I do know, or other people that I do know, are like really really good at it. Like it came natural to them. It's so amazing. So I think I don't think that everyone. I don't think all witches are psychic, but I do think that their intuition is a lot more heightened.
Okay. Well, and that
If
makes
that makes
sense.
sense,
It does. It does to me.
you know.
It's a couple more episodes later. So I want to take a moment here, Rachel. If you had the opportunity to speak directly to the world in general, what would you want them to know about witches, practicing Wicca? What would you want the general world to know about that?
Wow, the whole world?
The
Ooh,
whole
okay.
world.
Um, One, that there are different facets to it. There's different cultures. There's different ways that people practice their magic. They're called different things. Always be open-minded to learn about that, especially if you're going to be getting into, the craft and learning about that, because there are different cultures that practice in different ways, which are really spectacular, because some of the things that they, like Latino magic, for example, is something I'm just absolutely fascinated with, and I can't wait to delve into that more and meet people. Um, that there, if you are going to start practicing, that we always try to maintain a balance. A lot of people practice, the what they call the white magic, or just good-natured magic, as far as just helping the planet, helping to bring love and more positivity. Yes, that is all in good thing. But there's also other witches that practice sides. They do to balance it out. They practice dark and white magic. As far as like what I want people to know is that we're not evil. We're not trying to destroy the world. We're not satanic that are going to, and Satanists don't even do this either, but I'm just saying they're going to sacrifice chickens and, we're not going to do any of that. It makes me so mad when we have that negative stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the pentacle and the pentagram are not evil symbols. Okay, they're not. They're actually very beautiful, divine, very protective symbols that we hold very, very sacred. Just like a Christian would hold the cross as sacred, that's what we do with the pinnacle and the pentagram. Um, and honestly, the one big thing, at least for me personally, is that all I want to do is help people. And if you really talk to any other witch, that's really what they want to do. They just want to try to help people, and just bring their gifts to light, and to, feel safe when they practice. It's not it's not a bad thing to be a witch. A lot of people out there are just uneducated. So educate yourself. Ask questions. If you see someone that's, wearing a pinnacle and you're curious, well, if you want to be the social butterfly that you are, go ask them questions. It's not, I certainly would welcome it. But not everybody does. So read the room first, people. Read the room. So, I mean, just kind of like there are certain places where some witches and people practice, Wiccans, pagan witches, whatever you want to call us, that are still they are very reserved and actually coming forward and doing that. Me, honestly, my give a fuck went out the window a long time ago, so I don't care. And this is who I am. So if you want to come speak with me, fine. I welcome you. I'll give you a big hug. So we're just witchcraft is not evil. Oh my gosh, I can't say it enough. Like it's not. I don't know what else to say other than that. I'm like, just our practices are not evil. But there are people who, like I said, they practice both sides. It just kind of it depends on honestly, witches could do whatever you need. Whatever you need, a dark or a light, spell or practice, they could do that. But a lot of us choose not to because we don't want to put that out in the world.
Right.
Awesome. We just...
Well, and that's one of the things that I do know now, more so than ever, through our friendship is, yeah, guess what? Witches are pretty freaking normal.
Yeah, we're normal.
Yeah,
We really are. We got parents. I mean, parents. Yeah, of course we have parents because how did we get here? But I mean, we're parents. As far as like, most of us have kids, most of us have families, most of us have a 9-to-5 job, most of it, we pay our bills, and when we get that one time that we can be quiet to meditate or hold our crystals or cast a circle and do a spell, great. Does it have to be elaborate? No. You can make it very simple. But yeah, we're really, really normal people. We're not, how the whole memes, you're like, what my friends think I'm doing, what other people think I'm doing. It's basically that. I mean, are we, dancing around a cauldron with broomsticks? Man, I wish. But no, that doesn't happen for me in my world. So that'd be great, but no.
It's kind of hard to fit that in, isn't it? Between kids and school and after school activities, work and all that stuff.
I know, right? Okay, after Gav's little play, I'm gonna go dance around the cauldron for a little bit because it's a full moon, guys.
Hey,
Yeah, I wish that could happen. Yeah, that would be great.
Rachel, we really appreciate you being with us tonight and hopefully providing a little education and enlightenment to our listeners on this particular topic. And we will definitely be reaching out to you in the future, maybe considering
I hope so.
Some tarot readings via the podcast.
That would be fun.
Awesome. Just putting that idea out there, okay? All
Yeah,
right.
see? Set your intention, girl.
There you go. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
All right. Hey, listeners, thank you so much for sticking with us. We've got another topic tonight. It's going to be even more exciting next week. I don't know how we can top it, but we're definitely going to try. So stay with us. Check our Facebook page, Topic Paranormal. There's all kinds of good information there. We'll include some tips and resources from tonight's episode, as well as that's where you're going to see any events that are coming up. A little birdie told me that we may actually be doing some Palace Theater investigating coming up pretty soon. So I'm going to leave it at that. Doesn't it sound exciting?
Yes.
All right. Well, y'all have a good night and catch you next go around. Thanks so much, guys.
You are listening to Topic Paranormal with your host, Georgina Holzmeyer, and the Paranormal Brain Trust, Robert M. Brown, Nick Landy, and Rachel Sosa. Topic Paranormal covers Paranormal Talk, Paranormal Tales, Paranormal Training, and so much more. Experience the topics of conversation on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Topic Paranormal. Have a topic suggestion or a question? Send an email to topicparanormal@gmail.com or post it to the Topic Paranormal Facebook page. Topic Paranormal is part of the Astronet Radio family. Visit astronetradio.com for more awesome podcasts.
This episode, copyright 2019 by astronetradio.com. All rights reserved.